Iniimbitahan po ang lahat na magsitayo para sa pambansang awit ng Republika ng Pilipinas na aawitin ng UP Singing Ambassadors kasama ang kanilang lead conductor, Dr. Ed Mangiat.
Bayang maghihil para sa silanganan, alag ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinihang, duyan ka ng magiging, sa manlulupi, di ka pasisiil. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bukal, may bilang kang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kisap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning, ang bituin at taral niya kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walhati pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang higaya na pag may mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Magandang hapon. Welcome sa Pagpupugay, a tribute to the national artists of the UP Press. Ako po si OJ Sarquinia.
At ako naman po si Junes Crisostomo.
Exciting ang araw na ito dahil hindi lang ito basta simpleng selebrasyon. Ito ay bahagi ng pagdiriwang ng ikalimampung anibersaryo ng University of the Philippines Press. Nasubaybayan natin simula noong ika-16 ng Marso ng nakaraang taon ang mga handog na pasasalamat ng UP Press, tulad ng pagbibigay-pugay kay Dr. Damiana L. Eugenio, ang Philippine Studies Symposium sa 36th Manila International Book Fair sa pakikipagtulungan ng National Book Development Board, ang National Bookstore Literary Festival, ang 2 collective book launches, at ang 2 50% off sale. Inaabangan din natin sa Marso ang awarding ng UP Press Critical Essay Writing Contest.
Ngayong taong 2016 naman ay magbibigay tayo ng pasasalamat at pagbibigay-pugay sa mga pambansang alagad ng sining na mga autor din ng UP Press. Kung mapapansin niyo po ang website ng UP Press at ang Galleria 1 po dito sa Faculty Center, punong-puno ng pagpubigay-pugay sa 13 pambansang alagad ng sining. Meron din po tayong mga poster ng mga national artists at mga video interview kung saan ay nagbahagi ang mga kaibigan at mga estudyante nila ng mga kwentong hindi pa natin naririnig tungkol sa kanila.
At para simulan ang ating pagdiriwang ngayong hapon, narito ang katuwang ng UP Press para sa selebrasyong ito, ang dekana ng Kolehiyo ng Arte at Literatura ng Universidad ng Pilipinas, Dr. Amihan Bonifacio Ramulete. Bigyan po natin siya ng masigabong palakpakan.
Isang karangalan po ang mapasama sa isang programang magbibigay-pugay sa ating mga pambansang alagad ng sining. Noon po ay pinapanood ko lamang kayo mula sa malayo, subalit ngayon ay nakakausap at nakaka-photo op pa. Nakaka-starstruck talaga. Isang karangalan pong makasama ang mga henyong malaki ang ambag sa pagpapayaman ng kaalaman, sining at kultura ng bansa at siya ring nangunguna sa pagpapalago ng scholarship ng iba't ibang disiplina. Tunay na mapalad ang Universidad ng Pilipinas dahil 13 pambansang alagad ng sining ang nakapagpalimbag ng kanilang mga akda sa ilalim ng UP Press sa pamumuno ni Dr. Neil Garcia. At 5 sa kanila ay naging bahagi ng Kolehiyo ng Arte at Literatura. Kaya't huwag na nating patagalin pa at ating pakinggan ang iba't ibang pagkilala sa ating mga panauhing pandangal. Sa ating mga pambansang alagad ng sining, maraming salamat po sa inyong pagdalo at sa inyong mga akda. Naway patuloy kayong magsilbing inspirasyon sa susunod na henerasyon ng mga artista ng bayan. Mabuhay kayo, maraming salamat at magandang gabi sa lahat.
Maraming salamat po, Dean Ramolete.
Junes, alam ko, gaya ng marami sa atin ngayong hapon, nanggaling ka din sa pagtuturo kanina.
Tama.
May mga estudyante nang galing pa sa klase at may mga empleyado na nag-early out sa kanilang mga trabaho. Ang ating mga national artists mukhang na-traffic din kanina papunta rito. Para naman maging magaan at masaya ang ating selebrasyon ngayong hapon, narito ang handog na harana ng UP Singing Ambassadors.
Bigyan po natin sila ng masigabong palakpakan.
Ibon sa parang lumilipad, madalas ang dala ng kanilang at kung mapagod na ay dadapong agad sa sanga ng kahoy ay palipat-lipat. Sa sanga ng kahoy ay palipat-lipat. Sa umaga ang hawilan ay mailang na maingat. Sa gabi dumadaloy at maliksi. Sa umaga ang awitan ay mainam na pakinggan. Sa gabi dumadapot di mahuli at maliksi. Di mahuli at maliksi. Di mahuli at maliksi. Sa gabi dumadapo. Di mahuli at maliksi. Ang maya, ang
I told this to yung taga Paite because he's a very good craftsman. Si Baltimore, sabi ko, you know, sabi ko, you will be rich and you will be famous, but you will never be great until you make social comment.
Ang Waywaya ay isang maikling kwento ni pambansang alagad ng sining, F. Sionil Jose. Ang Waywaya ay isang Ilocanong salita na ang ibig sabihin ay kalayaan. Upang magbasa ng sipi mula sa Waywaya, narito ang ilang kasapi ng Romancing Venus na sina Cookie Tuason, Opalyn Santos, Sige Gomera at Marty Tenco.
He returned to the cove. Actually, a small turn of the river that was hidden by a wall of low branches. Within, it was a pool that was fed by a spring, and beyond the spring, up a sandy bar, was a sprout of cogon, behind which he had slept the night before. He had taken care
that there was no trace of him in the sand, so that when he went to the spring to drink, he had wiped out his tracks carefully. Now he went to sleep, and once rested, he would merely race across the river to the sanctuary of his own land. It was long past morning when he woke up, alive to the twitter of birds, the jabber of monkeys, the scent of moss and green living things. He lay on his back, motionless for some time, gazing at the cloud-flecked sky.
It was then that a rustling to his right jarred him from his reverie. He keened to the footfalls on the grass and dried leaves. Whoever was approaching was not trying to hide his presence. Then she burst into view, a girl, lovely as morning and just as fair, her hair knotted to the left above her ear. A fine blue tattoo of flower designs ran in a thin line down her arms to her wrists. She knelt down before the rim of the pool and gazed at her reflection there, then stood up, untied the knot of her blue sack dress on her shoulder and let it slip down her feet. She stood naked and true and beautiful, her face upraised to catch a bit of sun, her breasts and nipples touched with pink. Her stomach was flat, and below the patch of pubic hair, her legs were supple and well-shaped. She stooped and untied the thongs of her leather sandals, then she walked nimbly into the water, shivering. At first, as she tested it with her toe. Then she plunged and splashed about. She dived to the shallow depths and the clear water. He could follow her lissom, figure turning then surfacing to float on her back so that her breasts were shiny with water and sun.
Dio watched, keeping his ears keen. He wanted to know if she had companions, but he could hear only the rustle of the wind in the trees, the gurgling of the river as it coursed through boulders and shallows. He had stashed across the river an iron plowshare, a piece of newly woven cloth, a quiver of iron-tipped arrows. Now he would also bring home a slave, healthy, young, and good to look at. With her sandals, her bangles of gold, she was no simple peasant. She must come from the upper class of Laud. His agile mind quickly devised a way by which he would capture her with the least resistance and trouble. It seemed that she would swim forever, but finally, she made for her clothes. By then, Dio had crouched closer to her things, and as she stooped to gather them, he rushed out and pinned her arms, clamping a hand over her mouth. That was a mistake, for she bit his hand. The pain was sharp, and his response was immediate. He spun her around and struck her in the jaw. There was this dumb, surprised look on her face as she staggered backwards and fell. Dio bound her hands and feet and gagged her mouth. He gathered her clothes, her sandals, then erased the signs of struggle on the sand. And heaving her on his shoulders, he headed for the river. It did not matter much that he would cross now in the daylight, and if they pursued him, he could easily outrace them. And once he was in the sanctuary of his forest, it was a brave man who would follow him. Once or twice, while he was knee-deep in the water, he turned to look, and again, when he was finally across, no one had seen him. Once across, he laid her on the grass, still naked, while he went back to the water to wash the soot of 3 days from his face and body. When he returned, she had revived, and she cringed at his approach. You're heavy, Dio said, smiling, and look at my hand, you little wildcat.
He waved his right hand, which had begun to swell, her teeth marks deeply imprinted still below the thumb. She made angry, protesting sounds, shaking her head. She tried to rise, but then she realized it was useless to struggle. She did not move anymore. In the sunlight, looking closer at her, she seemed fairer and prettier than when he first saw her. That was that the Tagalaod women were noted for, unlike the women of Daya, who had darker skin. You are good for the eyes. Dayo said, moving closer and tweaking her nipples. She glared at him but did not move, and very soon the nipples hardened. Pleased with himself, Dayo smiled. If you promise not to make trouble, he said with a laugh, I will give you back your clothes. She nodded quickly. We have a long way to go, a whole day's march, and I don't want to carry you. He helped her to her feet, and as she stood up, he realized that she was tiny. She did not even reach up to his shoulder. He went beside her and ran a hand down the curve of her back at her buttocks. Then he untied her hands and feet. Free, at last, she spread her arms and stamped her feet. She picked the sack dress up and put it on. When she looked at him again, she picked the sack dress up and put it on. When she looked at him again, entreaty was in her eyes. Yes, I will hit you again. Yes, he said, raising his fist, if it cannot be tamed, and I do not want to do that. Shortly before midday, he found the water tubes, the dried meat, and the cakes of brown sugar that he had hidden under the trunk of a dead tree. He ate, and when he was through, he gave her a little of what was left. She was hungry and thirsty too, but she refused what he offered her. Dayo shrugged. If you don't want to eat, then march on an empty stomach.
By nightfall, she still had not spoken a word. Her jaw had begun to swell, and he wondered if he had hit her so hard that her tongue had been cut. In the dimming light, he held her face. She winced. Open your mouth, he said, but she refused. He glared at her and raised his fist. Slowly, she opened her mouth. No, her tongue was not cut, and her breath was warm and sweet like a baby's upon his face.
He gazed at the stolen eyes, at the mouth, the nose. He really had a good-looking slave. Perhaps better looking than any of the young women he knew. Even Liulua, with whom he already spent many nights. They reached a gully where saplings grew, and at this time of the year, the gully was dry.
He told her to recline against a sapling. He tied her hands behind the young tree and then her feet. It was not that he feared treachery. It was that she might run away and be captured by another Tagadaya, and he would then lose all claim to her. She seemed resigned, and at once did she protest.
Muli, maraming salamat sa mga kasapi ng Romancing Venus, sila Cookie Tuason, Opalyn Santos, Siege Gomera, at Marty Tenco. Muli po natin silang bigyan ng palakpakan. Upang magbigay pugay kay F. Shonil Jose, pambansang alagad ng sining para sa panitikan, narito ang kritiko mula sa Manila Critics Circle, kasapi ng Bienvenido N. Santos Creative Writing Center, profesor sa De La Salle University at miyembro ng Executive Board ng Philippine Center of International Pen, si Dr. Shirley O. Lua.
Our esteemed national artists, distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, a blessed evening. May I express my warmest felicitations to the University of the Philippines Press for 50 enduring years of publishing power and for its unyielding commitment to the service of Philippine publications. More power to you and your team, Dr. Neil Garcia. It is my pleasure to offer a few words to honor Dr. F. Shonil Jose, or Manong Frankie, as he is fondly called. I would like to single out 3 of his myriad of fortes and accomplishments. First, the potency of his writing. French philosopher Simone Weil has remarked that only 2 things pierce the heart: beauty and affliction. The works of Jose possess both. They are narratives of pain recounted in beauty. In the literature classes in my university, the fictions of Jose are invariably some of the required readings. For instances, My Brother, My Executioner, The Pretenders, Mass, Ermita, among others. The students who read the required text are riveted by the story. Girls would approach me to tell me they shed buckets of tears over the story, and guys would linger at the end of the class, a troubled expression in their eyes, and ask, "What happened to Louis Asperi?" Or, "Why did Tony Sampson end his life?" Indeed, one cannot discount Jose's stories as some of the most heart-rending Filipino masterworks, their disturbing potency on par with that of Jose Rizal's Noli Me Tangere or Carlos Bolosan's America is in the Heart. Of intricate design and magnitude, Jose's fictions are judicious observations of humanity, candid exposés of the ills of society, and the ever investigation of our national identity. The individual narratives are set against a backdrop of socio-historical events, significations of the violence and vicissitudes in our nation's chronicle, from colonialisms to agrarian unrest and social injustices, from oppressive rules and class struggles to natural adversities. What Jose has done is to bear the wounds of history and allow them to cry out as witnesses to its traumas. Through his recollection and reconstruction of these experiences, Jose seeks to impart stories of a larger history that are otherwise unavailable, that in their latency need to be addressed. His intrepid act is a recovery and a repossession of what is not available or fully known, what is hidden or repressed in the national psyche. In turn, these stories become testimonies of our people's claim to survival, of resistance against destruction and death, and of the hopeful possibility of forming new histories. Second, his relentless, admirable efforts to advance the cause of Philippine literature through the many bold ventures he has undertaken. One foreign journalist has remarked that Frankie is, and I quote, a constant catalyst, a conduit for the exchange of knowledge. Beyond being a fountain of knowledge himself, he knows where all the other fountains can be located, unquote. More than that, where fountains are not available, particularly during the years of political turmoil, Jose has dug up well springs and provided oases of resources for many a pilgrim writer. One fountainhead is the Solidaridad bookshop. Solidaridad is a granary for the Filipiniana collections, where other supply stores fail to carry the titles of, say, the University of the Philippines Press. They can be found in Frankie's quaint little cubbyhole in Ermita. It is a delightful sanctuary for writers and intellectuals to break bread and lift their spirits while trading ideas or swapping political chismis. One visitor enthused that it is, and I quote, one of the centers of cultural life in the Philippines, unquote. Incidentally, Solidaridad celebrated its golden anniversary last year. Equally, a fountainhead is the Philippine Center of International Pen. This writers' organization, founded by Jose, continues to hold high the banner of free speech. It has issued resolutions and communique in defense of freedom of expression, a modest endeavor to sustain a healthier climate for democratic exchange, dissent, and human rights. Its manifold activities and projects across the archipelago, conferences, publications, book launchings, readings, fora, seminars, workshops, promote Philippine traditions and render decent services to local communities of writers, teachers, and students. Under the visionary stewardship of Jose, PEN has enjoyed amiable interactions with other PEN centers abroad, organized ASEAN conferences, and hosted the visits of distinguished foreign writers, including Nobel laureates Wole Soyinka, Gunter Grass, and Mario Vargas Llosa, among many others. Philippine PEN will turn 60 in 2 years' time. Third, his unquenchable generosity as a human being. Manong Frankie is one of the biggest-hearted organisms on planet Earth. Let me draw a partial list of facts for you. He presents moleskin notebooks to friends. He sends little caring notes to praise your writing efforts. He takes you on an adventure with him to his beloved Rosales and to see the breathtaking Lingayen Gulf. He treats you to delicious shabu-shabu or the wicked bagnet. He serves the best bottle from his wine cellar. He lets students sit at his feet and listen to his merry anecdotes. He holds free lectures on fiction and history, just this morning at LaSalle. He sponsors an emerging writer from the province to attend a Manila conference. He opens his house to the homeless nomad writer. And most of all, to quote his good friend Alfredo Roses, Frankie has, and I quote, amazing and extreme tolerance for abrasive characters who suck in their only oxygen and plastic beatniks who I can only describe with a lamentable failure of words as, well, asshole. Unquote. This is the Frankie personage in all his magnificent princely soul. Manong Frankie, thank you for your passion for the word, your zest for all sorts of escapades, and your belief in humanity's true grit. We salute you for your lush legacy to Philippine art and letters. Mabuhay.
Maraming salamat po, Dr. Shirley Olua. Inaanyayahan naman po namin sina UP Press Director Jose Neil C. Garcia at Dekana ng CAL, Amihan Bonifacio Ramolete, upang magbigay ng katibayan ng pasasalamat, Pagpupugay DVD at UP Press Kit kay Pambansang Alagad ng Sining F. Shonil Jose. Palakpakan po natin sila.
I have had many friends in the student body as well as teachers in this university from way back in 1946. Way back. Yung mga akasa niyan, they were all saplings at the time. Ganitong, see? Now look at those acacia trees. And I think that I have also made a couple of contributions to your university, although I did not study here. One, I envisioned your university press. I was the one who set it up when General Romulo was president. No, that's quite a story. The other is I also set up in Los Baños the Agrarian Reform Institute when the president of UP was Salvador Lopez. Yan na. I owe a lot to this university, not only yung PhD na binigay sa akin ni Pepe Abueva, but the many loyal friendships from the students as well as the faculty. Among them, I also owe a lot to Bien, but I will tell you that in private. Thank you.
Ang pinakamahalagang bahagi ng ating gunita ay nasa panitikang bayan, nasa oral literature. Hanapin mo yung pinakamalayo na maaabot na paggunita sa kahapon ng bansa. Practically, ang aking project is to rewrite the history of poetry through my poetry.
Upang magbasa ng kompostula ni Pambansang Alagad ng Sining Virgilio S. Almario, narito ang samahan ng mga makatang nagsusulat sa Filipino, ang ilang kasapi ng lira o linangan sa imahen, retorika at anyo. Narito po sina R.R. Kagalingan, Dakila Kutab, at Ralph Lawrence Fonte.
Gising na, bunso ko. Pagkat hindi ito paraiso. Huwag mong hanapin sa lilim ng malalabay na anino. Walang dapat mangulila ngayong gabi, kundi ako.
Si Memoria ay isang matandang dalaga. Gumising siyang tulog pa ang mundo. Walang katapusan ang tula at gunita. Sa hangin nakahihilong hulihin ng tingin.
Naiinis ang hangin sa lungsod. Mga 50 hakbang pa'y natanaw ko ito. Hindi makilala sa sariling bayan, umalis ng Diyos. Bago pumutok ang araw, nasa lansangan na.
Tangrib, lawas ng umaalon-along alindog.
Bawat saglit nagtatalik ang mortalidad at eternidad.
Huwag mong itanong sa matandang makatang ito, saan ba nanggagaling ang bulaklak?
Ang puso, marahil, ay isang harding pinukaw ang gabi.
Isa po itong kompostula hango sa unang 18 taludtod, sa piling 18 taludtod sa mga aklat na tula ni Rio Alma. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Lira. Upang magbigay pugay kay Virgilio S. Almario, pambansang alagad ng sining para sa panitikan, narito ang premyadong makata, mangangatha, mandudula, sanaysayista, campus director ng Philippine High School for the Arts, miyembro ng likhaan the University of the Philippines Institute of Creative Writing or UPICW, at isa sa mga nagtatag ng Lira, Dr. Victor Emmanuel Carmelo Dinadera Jr.
Sensya na po, galing pa ako sa malayong lugar eh. At nagsasara nga kami doon ng Makiling International Arts Festival at ang isa naming panauhin doon eh si Dr. Ramon Santos. Sir, salamat ha. Hindi na kita nabigyan ng buko pie. Pasensya, nagmamadali tayo eh. Yung kanina nagpalabas, mga kasama rin natin yan, yung Romancing Venus na nagkalat ng pakwan dito eh. Parang gusto nilang magpakwan eh, no? At nung huli kami nagkita, doon yun naman sa Pagpupugay. Hindi, ito talaga kung anong pinagsasasabi mo, ate. Performatura. Sa performatura, binigyan natin doon ng Pagpupugay ang ating mga pambansang alagad ng sining na si Francisco Sionel Jose, na ipinakilala ni Lourdes de Vera sa mga millennials. Si Dr. Bienvenido Lumbera, na pinakilala dapat pinakilala ni Roland Tolentino, pero hindi sila dumating pareho. At si Dr. Cirilo Bautista, na pinakilala naman ni Crip Yuson, ang kanyang kaumpugang baso at kasama sa plaque. Teka muna, ano bang meron sa UST at ang daming national artist? Ano nga ba? Anyway, sa dami ng itanong natin kay Neil Garcia at kay Wendell Capili. At ba't nandito silang lahat? Sumalangit naman si Rogelio Sicat. Tumasyan din yun. Teka muna, kung magsisimula ako sa pagpupugay kay Rio Alma, hindi dapat po sa akin eh. Kasi ang tutusin, dapat yung mga tungkungkalan ng taga University of the East. No, kasama niya doon si Rogelio Mangahas, na nasa Timog, na si Lamberto Antonio na nasa Nueva Ecija. At halimbawa, may nauna pa sa amin yung mga nagtatag ng galian sa arte at tula, kagaya ni Teo Antonio na nasa California, at yung mga kasama niya halimbawa sa Adarna House na kagaya ni Mike Bigornia na nasa kabilang buhay na. Dapat yun na lang ginawa natin para mas dramatic, di po ba? Kasi magsisimula ang kwento ko sa kalagitnaan na halos ng buhay niya. No, 1985, nung ko siya nakilala, Pinalad kasi kaming nanalo kami ng Makata ng Toon. Tapos, ang kasama namin doon, si Ariel Dim Borlongan at saka si Edwin Abayon, parang sa kasaysayan ng Talaang Ginto, kauna-unahan yatang nagkaroon ng mga bata. First, second, third pa. Tapos, narinig ko, ni isang emisaryong ipinadala, na itago natin sa pangalang Boy Martin, na hinahunting daw kami ng isang Makatang dakila. Sa National Library pa yun eh. So pumunta naman ako, Sabado yun eh. Punang pasok ko sa Victoria Building, hindi Victoria Court. Yun ang opisina dati ng Adarna doon sa may ABS-CBN, Sergeant Esquera Corner, imagine nyo, Quezon Avenue. Pagpasok ko doon, unang bumungad sa akin, dambuhala. Ano ang pangalan? Alfredo Navarro Salanga. Ang kakatuwa doon, nasa CR kami pareho dahil ninenervous ako. Alam ko nagkakaproblema sa kanyang zipper. Sabi ko, this is job for Superman. Sabi ko, pag lalapitan ko ito, ano kayo mangyayari? So, lumapit ako para tulungan siya. Nagkakawang gawa lang naman tayo. At tinignan niya ako ng postprandial titig. Hindi na ako lumapit. No, sabi ko, hindi pa panahon. So, pagpasok ko ron, nandun si Rene Villanueva, nandun si Fidel Rillo, nandun si Marnie Quilates, nandun lahat ng mga barkada niyang manginginom. No? Siyempre, kami naman bata pa, hindi pa naman kami talaga nabibinyag sa ganung bagay. At yung pala, yung pupuntahan namin yun, hindi ko alam, pagamutan. Rio Alma Poetry Clinic. So, ang tingin talaga sa amin, magmula sa simula, mga pasyente. Ganun ang turing ng Rio Alma yan sa amin. So, hindi namin akalain na tuwing Sabado, kailangan namin bumalik. At yung palang parang pinapagawa niya sa amin, parang sampal sa mukha eh. Ibig sabihin niya, na yung mga, kahit nanalo ka sa mga patimpalak, paksyat ka pa rin. Kasi marami ka pa rin hindi alam. At totoo yun. No? Dahil natuto kami, sinimulan niya, yung siguro, natutuhan lang naman niya yata yung kay Benvenido Lumbera eh. No? Sa Tagalog poetry. No? So nagbalik kami sa pag-aaral ng mga katutubong tula. Tapos inaral namin yung mga bugtong, alamat, at kung ano pang uri, tanaga, Jonah, dalit, at kung ano-ano pa na hindi ko naririnig. Dahil galing nga kami sa universidad na Konyo, no? UST. At kinalaunan, nakikita namin na bawat labas pala nun, hindi ka pwedeng hindi uminom. Kasama yun sa package ng pagpasok mo sa pag-aaral sa kanya. At laging, pag nagiinom kayo, hindi lang pa sa inuman. Dahil libre naman. Wala ka namang gagawin. Naalala ko, sumalangit na si Maningning Miklat na isang kasama namin, walang ginawa naman kundi mamulutan. Pwede naman palang ganun lang mamumulutan ka lang, hindi mo kailangan uminom. Inuubos na talaga yung toko at baboy. No? At ang ginagawa namin, parang lagi kaming may pakay na pag mag-iinom ka, hindi pala doon inuman lang. Alam mo, sa tinagal-tagal ko, dahil hindi naman literature ang course ko, creative writing, doon talaga ako natuto ng pagtula, mga bagay na wala sa textbook. Na makikita mo sa pagitan ng mga kwentuhan, inuman at iba pa, ang kanyang mensahe. At laging doon ako natuto ng pagbabalik sa kasaysayan, pagbabalik sa tradisyon, pagbabalik sa pamana na nung una wala sa amin yon, basta makatula ka lang, ayos na pakalam mo. Ako, Makata ako, kahit di mo maintindihan, problema mo yon. Na hindi pala dapat, di ba, hindi dapat, doon namin yon natutuhan sa kanya. Hanggang kinalaunan, magiging ano pala kami, mula sa 50 o 60 naging 10 na lang kami, yung 10 naging 7, at tinawag namin sarili naming Magnificent Seven dahil kami lang ang natira para tawaging tagapagtatag ng lingangan sa imahen, retorika at anyo, na kinalaunan ay magiging parang siguro pwedeng O basta, magiging controversial po ako, hindi naman tribute to sa akin. Ano? So, pagkatapos nun, ang isang nagawa nun, dahil marami ako nakilala sa kanila, ang naitulong sa akin ng Lira, naitatag ko yung Estetica Annual Awards for Literature. At si Neil kasama dyan, no? Ang kauna-unahang produkto namin doon, si Rodolfo Jun Lana. At sunod-sunod pa, si Wendell nga, umalis pa sa Barsitaran. Nandito ba siya? Wala naman. Para sa, sorry, Vice President, Vice ano ka ba? Vice Chancellor ba? Anyway, para sumali lang doon, no? At no, lahat ng mga Dr. Cirilo, Dr. Bien, Dr. Chanel, si Sir Santos, hindi namin naimbitahan para nagano. At sa tingin ko yun ang pinaka bunga ng mga pamana ni Rio Alma. Kinuha rin na ako sa Diario Filipino na kauna-unahan o siguro kahuli-hulihan ding broadsheet sa Filipino. Ako yung pumalit kay Rene nung umalis siya at magtrabaho sa iba. At birthday ko pa noon, nung dala-dala ko lahat yung pulutan sa kaalak, nung pagkabungad sa akin, welga pala ng Daily Globe at magsasara ng Diario Filipino. Nagtuloy-tuloy yung Philmag at kung ano-ano pa. No? Sa tingin ko, mga bagay na sinimulan ni Rio Alma na dapat ipagpatuloy. Nakakita ba kayo ng broadsheet ngayon sa Filipino? Wala, kasi parang pag sinabi mong Filipino, pang-tabloid ka lang. At yun dapat ang ating buhayin muli. Sa magazine, wala naman tayo, bukod sa liwayway, wala tayong malaking magazine na matino na hindi lang puro tungkol sa artista. At yun ay tigil din. No, siguro baka pwedeng gawin ng UP Press, no, ang paglalatalan nito muli. At ako ay nakuha niya sa Sentro sa Wikang Filipino, naging ano ko rin sa nakasama. May grupo kaming tinatag, ano ba yung grupo ng samahan ng mga Sangfil, no? Ako pa yung pinag-isip niya ng pangalan at inisa-isa ko kasi gusto niya yung, 'di ba, may ang logo kasi noon yung araw na may 8 rayos o silahis. Kinumpleto ko yung lahat ng universidad na yun para puntahan. Yun ang trabaho ko. At ang pinakamalungkot, ang ayaw maging membro dun sa 8 universidad na kauna-unahan magtatag ng Sangfil, UST. Nakakatawa talaga. Okay. Noong 1995, noon sinama ako nila pag may mga poetry reading, ako yung pinakabata, buhay pa ng si Rolando Tino, nagka-campus tour, poetry reading. At doon ako unang nakagalitan ni Rio Alma. Ikalawa, nung una akong tumula tungkol sa sex. Tuwa ako noon sa Lira, sinabit ko yun. Tapos, alam mo sabi niya, Vim, ang sex, ginagawa. Hindi itinutula. Magmula nun, hindi ko nagagawa yun eh. Oo. Kasi, basta wag na, may mga bata eh, no? So, ang nangyari nun, sinama ako, yung pangalawang napagalitan niya ako, ang ano yun eh, parang Menjola Massacre. Eh, nandun kami sa CEO, sabi ko, tama-tama. So, nagsalang ko ng music ni Gary Granada, naka-t-shirt ako, naka-maong, naka-pasiking, at doon sa loob ng pasiking, merong American flag na nakatago. Tapos, dahil, kailan bang ang Menjola Massacre? April? January. So, January late na. So, nagpapahanap ako ng paputok lang. Tapos na yung January 1, di ba? So, ang nakita ko, Quitis. Ang kasunod ko na, si Benilda Santos, si Joy Barrios, si Mike Bigorna, nandun, nakapaligid sila. Pag sindi kong gano'n, gumanon agad. Ako mismo nagulat. Nasa ilalim ako kunyari. Yung drama ko, nag-struggle ako sa ilalim ng American flag. Kasi sabi sinisindihan ko, hindi ko makita yung ng Quitis. Pag gano'n ko, huli kong nakita, alam mo kung saan? Sa leeg ni Mike Bigornia. Kaya ito yung sinabi ko nga nung namatay si Sir Mike, dapat ako yung nakapatay sa kanya nung una pa lang eh. Pero pagmula na, hindi na ako sinama ni Sir Rio. Doon pumasok si Mike Rosa. Siya naging fair-haired boy. At ako, talagang hindi na ako sinasama. Hindi na ako kinakausap. No? Ganon si Sergio pag nagtampo. No, talagang napatawad na niya ako sa tingin ko nung kinuha niya ako dito sa Institute of Creative Writing na maging fellow. Tapos siya pa yung nag-nominate sa akin sa Toy Melon. Tapos eventually, ako pa rin naging kasunod niya bilang director ng ICW. Tapos siya rin nag-nominate sa akin sa C-Right. Tapos, sa papasalamat, siyempre, nakakahiya naman, ginawa kong ninong sa kasal. Naakala ko, bibigyan ako ng rice dispenser. Alam niyo yung regalo sa akin? Tula lang. Hindi man lang weighing scale o kaya, di ba, o rice cooker, di ba? Hindi man lang. Anyway, at nagkaroon kami rin ng proyekto na pagpupugay sa pambansang alagad ng sining. Na dinala namin wala pa na si Sir Cirilo, si Sir Bien, dinala namin sa Lipa, Batangas at tinuring siyang rockstar. Kasi ang punto ng proyektong ito, dalhin sila sa sinilangang bayan. Alam niyo si Sir Sionil Jose? Sinalin siya sa 33 wika na ang setting ng kanya ay Rosales, Pangasinan, kaya may Rosales novels. Pagdating namin sa Rosales, Pangasinan, hindi siya kilala. Yun ang punto namin, kahit si Rio, kahit si Ma'am Edith Tiempo, akala nila taga Dumaguete siya. Taga Nueva Vizcaya siya nung dinala namin. At yun yung isang nagawa ng pagpupugay. At salamat, Neil. Alam ko may kinalaman ka dito at binuhay mo itong muli. At yung isa pa, huling-huli na lang po ito. Anong ginawa ko siyang PhD advisor, nung hindi ko nagagawa yung pinagagawa niya, alam mo ginawa ko? Pinalatan ko siya bilang advisor. Galit na galit siya, hindi ako kinakausap kasi hindi ko magawa yung mga pinapagawa niya eh. No? So, ang ginawa ko, pinalitan ko na lang siya. Kailangan ako matapos kasi penalty course na ako. Kung saan ako nakakuha ng 2 kay Sir Benz, by the way. Grabe. PhD, 2, grabe. Sir Ben, napapatawad na kita. Sa araw na ito lang. Okay. Ay, talagang umiinit ang buhay natin dito. Kaya siguro dapat nang simulan ng ating pagpupugay na totoo. Sapagkat espesyal ang pagpupugay na ito, espesyal din dapat ang balagtasan ngayon at dito. Si Rio Almang Makata o Virgilio Almariong Kritiko. Sino ang mas magaling? Kailangan ko ng mga magtatalo. Tumuloy ka, Makatang May Corosa, at ang argumento ay iyong ipakita.
Magandang hapon po sa kanilang lahat. Ang mikropono'y medyo po mataas. Ibababa ng konti at sa aking bibigay tumapat. Si Rio Alma o Virgilio Almario ay hinahangaan kong mahusay na kritiko. Sa mga sinaliksik, sa mga sinulat, kay rami ng kanyang mga prinsipyong nailatag. Ang kanyang balagtasismo versus modernismo ay isa pong padron sa pag-aaral ng panitikang Filipino. Kaya nga, para sa akin, sa pagpaparangal na ito, siya ang mahusay, ang dakilang kritiko. Aywan ko kung may tututol, pero po ang totoo, sa mga nasulat niya, nakairaming mga libro. Nandiyan nakahanay
sa harap
UP.
ninyo.
Maraming dapat na matutuhan ang mga Filipino sa kanyang mga sinabi sa wika natin at tula. Tunay ngang marangal itong ating bansa.
Kaya ako ngayon ay nananawagan sa isang matapang na lalaki na handa ngayon na sa iyo ay makipagdebate. Tuloy kayo, dakilang Teo Antonio. Sino bang makakapigil sa isang tulad ninyo?
Dapat naman. Kung ako lang ngayong hapoy naging isang mangkukulam.
Mangkukulam. Samantalang kayo'y mangkukulum.
Ang una kong kukulamin, si Kurosa na humamo ng balagtasan.
The nerve!
Kung hindi lang ngayong hapoy natatanging pagpupugay sa Makatang Rio Alma, di ko siya papatulan. Subukan mong nahamunin, kilabot ng balagtasan, palagay ko'y pupulbusin sa aming pong tunggalian.
Huwag kayong mag-alala, nandyan si Neil Garcia. Siya ang bahala sa papasahin nyo kanina.
Ay, salamat! Mula rito, patungo sa Amerika, malilibre ang pamasahe. Kapag iyay mungkahi mo, lakandiwang minamahal.
Mula...
Pero, bilang pagpupugay sa Makatang Rio Alma, kaya Neil, di na baling pamasahe itabi na.
Pang maalikaya. Ang pangmasahe.
Ala na yun, luma na yun eh.
Wala na pala yun. Historical sites yun ah.
Ang totoo, ako'y di ng datihang batang puso na sa batis ng pasiklab nasasabik pang maligo.
Nagpa-bypass ka ba?
Inaamin ko na ngayon, ako'y sadyang sukong-suko sa pagtulang karaniway di si dibdib hinahango. Meron diyan na Makatang kung sumumpat mga ako, pinipitas ang bituin ang pagsintay nilalako. Ay bakit ko na naising sapitin ang ganyang buhay kung ako rin ay gagawing si Vic Soto sa tanghalan?
Aba, may bala ka pang...
Kakakasalang eh. Kakakasalang kay Pauline eh. Ang totoo, ngayong hapon, ang Makatang Rio Alma ay Makatang noong kanyang kabataay naghimagsik sa kalsada. At ang sabi ng national artist na Bienvenido Lembera na si Rio isang Makata na inabutan ng sigwa. At siya ay nilandas niya pagbabago ng pagtula upang doon ang modernismo ay kanyang itataga. Pagkaraang sa kalsada, noong siya ay maghimagsik, inilarawan ng lipunan at ang dibos ng pag-ibig. Siya'y Makatang ang layunin, pagbabago ay tagis, katulad ng isang tabak na handang mamatay sa pag-ibig. O Makata kong Kurosa, totoo nga na mahusay na kritiko. Ngunit siya ay Makatang naiba iyang ritmo.
Rhythm method.
Iyang sukat at tugma na sinasabi mong metro, pinago niya sa landasing na malaya iyang berso. Katulad ni Abadilla, ay naiba rin ang ritmo. Ngunit sila, nila Roger at Lamberto Antonio, ang tatlong tungkungkalan sa ngalan ng modernismo. Kung mayroon mang Makatang ang tula ay binibigkas sa kalsada, ay narito ang bahagi noong popular na tula niya. Memina, bunsong sinta, ang ina mo ay wala pa. Nagpunta lang kay kabesa, nalilisan na ng saya. At sa ganyang suliranin at malalim na problema, nitong bayay nilarawan ang matinding pagdurusa. Kaya huwag kang ahara-hara o Makata kong Kurosa. Huwag mong tatanggaping kritiko lang, pero siya ay Makata na marapat idambana at dapat na masamba. ng maraming kabatang naghahanap niyang ilaw sa panahong itong bansay lumulubog, umaahon, umiigpaw. Sa naritong na kababayan, dapat natin tayong lahat ay magpugay sa makatang Rio Alma na dangal ng ating bayan.
Mukhang nalungkot ka nga doon sa California. Kaya pagdating mo rito, ay takada ng takada. May masasabi ka pa ba, Makatang Korosa? Dahil ng magandang hapon mo,
Kung wala nang
ngayon
masasabi.
magandang gabi na!
Kung wala nang masasabi,
Marami pang masasabi.
ang makatang si Kurosa,
Maraming masasabi.
Ano
Subalit
sasabihin mo?
Wala ng oras.
palagay ko nga,
Tayo sa-
ang haba ng
Baka
intro mo
tayo
eh.
sa bulwagan ay piliting makaladkad.
Saglit kong bubuhusan ng tubig ang apoy ng bakbakan sa tradisyon ng balagtasan na si Rio ang isa sa nag-aral. Kaya ating palakpakan, Mike Corosat, Teo Antonyong Mahal, na nagpaunlak sa UP Press na aming pinasasalamatan.
Salamat po.
Maraming salamat sa mga dakilang Makata, Vim Nadera, Michael Coroza at Teo Antonio. Atin pong kinikilala ang pagdating ni Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Gisela Padilla Concepcion. Inaanyayahan po namin sina VP Gisela Concepcion, UP Press Director Jose Neil C. Garcia at Dekana ng CAL Amihan Bonifacio Ramulete upang magbigay ng katibayan ng pasasalamat, pagpupugay DVD at UP Press Kit kay pambansang alagad ng sining Virgilio S. Almario na kakatawanin ng kanyang asawang si Ginang Lynn Almario at anak na si Agno Almario.
Maraming salamat po. Ngayong araw ay ginugunita rin natin ang 8 nabayapang pambansang alagad ng sining na autor din ng UP Press. Atin pong sariwain ang mga alaala nila. Amado V. Hernandez, Leonor Orosa Goquinco, Francisco Arceliana, Edith L. Chempo, NVM Gonzalez, Rolando S. Tino, Jose M. Maceda, at Lazaro Francisco.
Ako'y anak ng lupang hinirang, kung saan matatagpuan ang timyas ng peras ng silangan, nagniningning sa buong kapuluan. Taglay ko ang iwaga ng silangan, asan mang bayan o lungsod, maging timog, hilaga at kanluran, ang Pilipino ay namumukod. Sama-sama natin ang muli, pinagkamatayong nalitwin. At ang aking tagumpay, tagumpay ng aking lahi, tagumpay ng aking libid, ang tanging binibigti at hinahangad. Hangad ko'y tagumpay natin lahat. Ako ay may isang munting pangarap sa aking dakilang lupain, at sa sama-sama nating pagsisikap, sama-sama rin mararating ang iba't ibang galaw, isang patutunguhan, dito isang araw, isang kapuluan. Sama-sama natin ang muli, pinakamatayong nalitwin. At ang aking tagumpay, tagumpay ng aking lahi, tagumpay ng aking libid, ang tanging binibigti at hinahangad. Hangad ko'y tagumpay natin lahat. Hangad ko'y tagumpay natin
teacher ako, no? At bilang isang guro, laging merong layuning tinutungo yung aking pagsusulat. So, nais kong makatulong o panlinawin, halimbawa, kung ano ba yung tinatawag na inspirasyon.
Upang kantahin ang isang awit mula sa libreto ni Bienvenido L. Lumbera, Pambansang Alagad ng Sining para sa Panitikan, isinamusika ni Nonong Pedro para sa Tales of the Manuvo. Narito, sina Banawe Miklat Chansen at Rigel Borromeo.
Tito Bien, if you remember, in 2009, Ballet Philippines restaged Tales of the Manuvo. I was able to play first woman in that performance, where I sang Bangon sa Silangan and the duet of Noong Unang Panahon. Thank you so much for your beautiful words. And thank you as well, because through that production, I was able to meet my now husband, Dominic. Maraming salamat po. Ang bersyon na ito ng Noong Unang Panahon ang pinasikat ni Kuli Desma, ito yung solo version as opposed to the Tales of the Manuvo na duet version. Noong unang panahon, ang langit at lupa'y magkaratig halos, laganap ang tuwa. Kapag sa bangang ni Butil ay wala, ang gubat at ilog may handang biyaya. Nung unang panahon, ang sikat ng araw ay nagpapalago sa bawat halaman. Bakit kaya ngayon kay init ng darang ilog tinutuyo, parang tinitigang nung unang panahon, ang patak ng ulan pinasasariwa, dahong naninilaw. Ngayon'y nagngangalit, may hanging kasabay, may bahang kasunod na nakamamatay. Nung unang panahon, ang puso ng tao'y marunong magmahal, hindi nanloloko. Sa hapis ng iba'y laang makisalo, layo'y pumayapa at hindi manggulo. Pati ng langit na dati kay Baba ay nagpakalayo sa ulilang lupa. Ba't hala gumising, tuyuin ang luha ng nananawagan at nagpapawa. Nung unang panahon, ang langit at lupa'y magkaratig halos, laganap ang tuwa. Ba't hala gumising, tuyuin ang luha ng nananawagan at nagpapawa. Nung unang panahon, nung unang panahon,
Noong unang panahon, musika ni Nonong Pedero, mga titik ni Bienvenido L. Lumbera, pagtatanghal ni Dambanawe, Miklat Jansen at Rigil Borromeo. Isang masigabong palakpakan muli. Upang magbigay pugay kay Bienvenido L. Lumbera, pambansang alagad ng sining para sa panitikan, narito ang Professor Emeritus ng Universidad ng Pilipinas at autor din ng UP Press, si Dr. Teresita Jimenez Maceda.
Maayong gabi kaninyong tanan, mga ginagalang kong national artist, mga kasama ko sa universidad at mga kaibigan. Malaki ang utang na loob ko kay Bienvenido Lumbera, pambansang alagad ng sining. Ang aking kamulatan sa yaman ng sarili kong panitikang Cebuano, ang kultural na produksyon ng mga kilusang panlipunan, ang paninindigan para sa pagbatid at pagsulong ng kulturang Pilipino na kung walay, magiging mahirap mag-akda ng sarili nating malaya at nagsasariling bayan para sa ating mga Pilipino. Si Bienvenido Lumbera ang dahilan ng pag-aral ko ng Masters sa Ateneo noong 1970. Pagkat una pa man sa UP, siya ang bisyunaryong nagtatag ng Departamento ng Araling Pilipino o Philippine Studies sa Ateneo. Tulad ng henerasyon ni Lumbera, sumuso ang aking henerasyon sa panitikan at kulturang Anglo-Amerikano. Tulad ng henerasyon ni Lumbera, wala kaming kamuwang-muwang sa panitikang Pilipino, maliban sa mga naisulat sa Ingles. Paano nakakalas si Lumbera sa malakas na kapit ng banyagang kultura sa kanyang isip, gayong sa Amerika pa nga siya kumuha ng kanyang doktoral na pag-aaral? Kabalintuonan. Pero dito siya nahamong harapin ang malubhang karamdamang kultural ng kanyang henerasyon at ng mga sumunod pa nang nagpasya siya sa paghimok ng kanyang tagapayo na sulatin ang kanyang disertasyon sa katutubong tradisyong panulaan ng mga Tagalog. Bilang Tagalipa, Batangas, wala rin siyang kaalam-alam sa mayamang siste at talinhaga ng sarili niyang lahi. Namangha siya sa tila bago, ngunit dati ng mundo na kanyan palang kinaugatan. Ang bunga ng kanyang pag-aaral, alam na natin lahat ito, Tagalog Poetry, 1570 to 1898, Tradition and Influence in its Development, ang una niyang hakbang sa landas ng pag-akda ng malayang bayan. Makata si Lumbera sa Ingles, ngunit sa pagbalik niya sa Pilipinas, buo na ang kanyang loob na magsusulat siya sa Filipino. Kasama ni Rolando Tino at Jose Lacaba, bumuo sila ng grupo na nagsulong ng paggamit ng pang-araw-araw na wika sa kanilang pananalinhaga ng mga konkretong mga bagay, tunog, at karanasan sa di pangkaraniwang paraan. Tinawag nila itong tulang bagay at radikal na nabago ang diksyon ng tulang Tagalog. Sa paraang ito, nahuli ng mga Makata ang kontemporaryong spirito ng panahon at napalapit ang tula sa karaniwang taumbayan. Ito ang pangalawang hakbang sa landas ni Lumbera sa pag-akda ng malayang bayan. Sa panahong naging profesor ko si Lumbera, lublob na siya sa kilusang makabayan. Naging tagapangulo siya ng panulat para sa kaunlaran ng sambayanan o paksa, isang organisasyon ng mga manunulat at artist na nagbalangkas na makabayang pagsusuri ng kalagayan ng iba't ibang sining sa bansa. Bagamat hindi nagtagal dahil sa pagbagsak ng batas militar, napakalaki ng impluensya ng paksa sa pagpalawak pa ng kaalaman ng mga Pilipino sa sariling kultura at sa kahalagahan sa paggamit ng sining sa serbisyo ng sambayanan. Naalala ko pa ang diin ni Lumbera sa aming klase. Maaring di mo makita ngayon, pero ang pagsaliksik sa panitikan ng Pilipinas ay di maihihiwalay sa paninindigan laban sa mga di makatwirang struktura ng lipunang Pilipino. At buong buhay ni Lumbera mula noon ay di maihihiwalay ang kanyang sining, pagiging propesor at scholar sa makabayang adhikain. Isang napakalumbay na araw ang petsang Setyembre 22, 1972, araw ng dineklara ang batas militar sa Pilipinas. Marami sa aking mga kasama sa UP Baguio kung saan ako nagtuturo noon ang kusang idinampot. Nabalitaan kong nagtago na rin si Lumbera. Para akong lumulutang sa kawalan dahil wala na akong thesis advisor. Kala nyo kung ano. Pero kahit papano, ilang beses ko rin siyang nakita bago nahuli ng militar. Sa tiyaga ng aking matalik na amigang si Shane Lumbera, ang naging asawa ni Bien, napalaya rin siya pagkatapos ng ilang taon. Sa halip na manghina ang loob sa sentro ng detensyon, tila nakahanap ng bagong lakas si Lumbera. Napatalas ang kanyang isip kung paano isusulong ang makabayang layunin sa loob ng kaayusang diktadura. Tinanggap niya ang pagiging editor ng buwanang magazine Sagisag, kung naaalala niyo pa ito, sa ilalim ng opisina ng impormasyon ni Kit Tatad. Binuksan niya ang magazine sa mga diskurso sa kasaysayan, ekonomiyang politikal, kulturang popular, at mga malikhaing akda sa Filipino. Nakahanap ng behikulo ang mga scholar at ang hamon sa kanila ay ang paggamit ng wikang maiintindihan ng karaniwang tao. Napakalaking kontribusyon ng Sagisag sa lalong pagpalalim ng kaalaman ng Pilipino sa kanyang sariling kultura at bayan. Ang Sagisag ay paraan ni Lumbera ng pag-akda ng malayang bayan. Nang magsara ang Sagisag, hinamon naman si Lumbera ni Dodong Nimenso, dekano noon ng Arts and Sciences dito sa UP Diliman, na i-reformat ang Diliman Review para maging mas popular ang estilo at mas basahin ng mga estudyante. Nagtagumpay din si Lumbera dito. Binabanggit ko ang dalawang magazine na ito sapagkat napakalawak ng naging impluensya ng dalawang ito sa paghubog ng kritikal na kaisipan gamit ang popular na wika. Bahagi pa rin ito ng landas na tinatahak ni Lumbera sa pag-akda ng malayang bayan. Ang malikhaing bahagi ni Bien ay nabigyan ng pagkakataong mamulaklak sa entablado. So, narinig natin ang noong unang panahon. Noon pa man, mahilig na si Bien sa opera. Nang alukin siya ni Alice Reyes ng CCP, ballet na sumulat ng libreto para sa isang rock ballet opera na itatanghal sa CCP, hindi nagdalawang isip si Lumbera. Tinayuma ng CCP ni Imelda Marcos, walang pangingimi si Lumbera, nagamitin ito para sa nakamamanghang Tales of the Manuvo, ang aking paboritong kolaboratibong akda, kolaboratibong rock ballet opera ni Lumbera, Alice Reyes, at ang popular na kompositor na si Nonong Pedero na hindi marunong magsulat ng nota. Pinalaya mula sa akademikong journal ang mga epikon ng mga manuvo. Ginamitan ng masiste at popular na wika para sa kontemporaryong audience. Pinakilala ang mga sinaunang manuvo sa kanilang nakatattoo na stockings. Sinabayan ang liriko ng mga awit na nilikha ni Lumbera ng pop at rock na himig at instrumentasyon at naging popular ang mga awit dito sa radyo. Ang nagpa-popular nito ay si Lea Navarro at Haji Alejandro. Ginawang napaka-spektakular ang entablado at sa gitna nitong lahat, sa kabila ng pag-iral ng diktadura, ang mga pasaring dito at ang mensaheng hindi si Manama, hindi si Ugasi, ang ating asahan, ating sarili. Mapangahas at napakamatagumpay ng Tales of the Manuvo. Dito rin nagsimula ang paglikha ni Lumbera ng liriko ng mga awit para sa mga popular na mga awit tulad ni Haji. Ilan pang libreto ang sinulat ni Lumbera para sa CCP? Ang Ramahari, kasama niya dito si Ryan Cayabyab, ang Noli, ang popular na Noli, ang Bayani, kolaborasyon with Jim Paredes, ang nobela ni Carlos Bulosan, America's in the Heart, na sinalin at isinadula ni Lumbera sa Nasa Puso ang Amerika sa Raha Sulaiman Theater. At ang ilang beses ding tinanghal na hibik at himagsik ni na Victoria Lactau sa musika ni Lucien Letaba at sa direksyon ni Alex Cortez na tinanghal dito sa UP. Ang huli tungkol sa karahasan, ang huling ito ay tungkol sa karahasan sa kababaihan sa mga unang taon ng okupasyon ng Amerika ay naiparinig din sa radyo. Samantala, patuloy ang pag-akda ni Lumbera ng mga librong gumagamit ng makabayang perspektiba sa pagkritik ng kulturang popular at panitikan ng Pilipinas. Salamat sa kanyang kabiyak na si Shane, naisalbar ang mga nawala na sanang mga sanaysay. Dahil mahilig si Bien nang magbigay ng kanyang kopya ng papel sa kung sino man ang hihingi dito. Mabuti na lang nagfa-file si Shane. Hindi ko na babanggitin pa dito ang mga libro, batid nyo na ito lahat, dahil tiyak akong nagamit nyo na ang kanyang mga akda sa klase. Binubukod tangi ko ang inilimbag ng UP Press na Writing the Nation, pag-akda ng bayan, sapagkat dito inilatag ni Lumbera ang kanyang framework sa pagkritik ng ating kultura at panitikan. Isa sa mga paboritong sanaysay dito ng mga estudyante ay ang sanaysay na dating, kung saan niya ang estetika ng panitikan, na nagbibigay halaga sa kung ano ang estetika ng panitikan para sa Pilipino. Sa pagkatao, sa isip, sa aksyon, mahigpit ang pagkabigkis ng teorya at praksis kay Bien. Mahigit na 80 na ang ating alagad ng sining. Hanggang ngayon, nagsusulat siya at nagbabasa ng tula sa mga rally at demonstrasyon laban sa mga katiwalian sa lipunan. Walang pagod sa pagsusulong ng isang malaya, nagsasarili, at makatarungang kaayusan. Sa kanyang panulat at buhay, patuloy niyang inaakda ang ating bayang nagmimithi pa rin ng tunay na kalayaan. Tiyak akong nagsasalita ako para sa marami sa aming inyong tinuruan, Bien, ang mga kasama sa pagkilos, ang iyong tinulungan para hubugin ang aming kahusayan, patatagin ang aming paninindigan, para makatulong din kami sa pag-akda ng malayang bayan. Mula sa kaibuturan ng aming kasing-kasing, ng aming puso, daghan kaayong salamat. Tunay kang artist ng bayan. Salamat.
Maraming salamat, Dr. Tet Jimenez Maceda. Inaanyayahan po namin sina UP Press Director Jose Neil C. Garcia at Dekana ng Calamihan Bonifacio Ramolete upang magbigay ng katibayan ng pasasalamat, Pagpupugay DVD at UP Press Kit kay Pambansang Alagad ng Sining, Bienvenido L. Lumbera.
Now let's talk of identity. Identity is not necessarily a subjective consciousness, but its being becomes immanent in the way things are defined in one's term, the way reason and logic are shaped according to one's objective view of selfhood, shaped by one's history and culture, or traditions in humanism and moral value.
upang maghandog ng isang sayaw para kay Ramon P. Santos, pambansang alagad ng sining para sa musika. Narito ang UP Tugma. Bigyan po natin sila ng masigabong palakpakan. Maraming salamat, UP Tugma, sa inyong performance at sa lahat ng mga brave souls na nakisayaw sa kanila. Mabuhay po kayong lahat. Okay. Upang magbigay pugay kay Ramon P. Santos, pambansang alagad ng sining para sa musika, narito ang Associate Professor at Chairman ng Musicology Department ng UP Diliman, Dr. Vern de la Peña. Atin po siyang palakpakan.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Isang malaking karangalan ang makabilang sa malaking okasyon to at lalong-lalo na ang maatasan magbigay pugay sa pinakamamahal kong guro at pangalawang ama. Meron ho akong 3 paumanhing nais ihatid sa inyo. Magagalit po sa akin yung aking speech teacher kasi bawal na bawal yung humingi ng paumanhin pag public speaking. Pero unang-una po, hindi po ako nakapaghanda ng talumpati. Dahil kasama ko yung tugma, kababalik lang namin kahapon mula sa tour. At si Dr. Santos rin nga pala ang unang nagpadala sa amin sa festival na yon. So yun ang una kong paumanhin sa inyo. Kaya lang, para makabawi, aawit na lang po ako kasama ng tugma. At ihahandog namin kay Dr. Santos. Yun po yung unang paumanhin. Yung pangalawang paumanhin, dahil busy kami sa festival, hindi kami nakapag-ensayo. Iisa lang po yung alam naming kanta. Ang kanta pong alam namin, yung Bala Si Basem. Yung Bala Si Basem po, kung hindi nyo naitanong, ay isang awit ng pag-iinsulto. Pwede na siguro po yun ngayon. So, yun ang pangalawang paumanhin hihingin ko sa inyo. Yung pangatlong paumanhin po na hihingin ko sa inyo, sana hindi kayo magambala dahil hihingin ko ang inyong tulong. Sana po, leader chorus ito, tulungan nyo akong umawit. Pwede ho ba yun? So, kung ano lang yung kakantahin ko, uulitin nyo lang. Simple lang naman ho yun, ano? Practice muna tayo. Practice muna. Okay? Si Dr. Ramon Santos, pambansang artista kayo. Si Dr. Ramon Santos, pambansang artista. Sa larangan ng musika kayo. Sa larangan ng musika. Pwede na siguro yan. Ngayon, hindi nyo na kailangan tumayo, pero gusto ko sana, para mas maging lively, hihingin ko kayong pumadyak. Padyak. Kanan lang, padyak. Imnas bala, imnas, bala si basen, imnas, imnas bala, imnas, bala si basen, imnas. Handa na kayo? Si Dr. Ramon Santos, pambansang artista kayo. Si Dr. Ramon Santos, artista. Sa larangan ng musika. Sa larangan ng musika. Avant-garde estilo niya. Avant-garde estilo niya. Masakit sa tainga. Masakit sa tainga. Imnas bala, imnas. Tuloy pa ba natin? Si Dr. Ramon Santos, pambansang artista kayo. Si Dr. Ramon Santos, pambansang artista. Pero ayaw siya ni Gloria. Pero ayaw siya ni Gloria. Tinanggal pangalan niya. Tinanggal pangalan niya. Kay Carlo J, talbog siya. Imnas bala, ayaw siya ni Gloria. Ayaw siya ni Gloria. Masama ang loob niya. Masama ang Inatake, inatake sa puso niya, sa puso niya. Si Santos, ay si Santos, munti ka na, munti ka na. Si Santos, ay si Santos, munti ka na, munti ka na. Innas bala, oh innas, oh innas. Bala si Basang, oh innas, oh innas. Nang sinoy, noy, presidente na, presidente na. Binalik, ay binalik pangalan niya, pangalan niya. Binalik, ay binalik pangalan niya, pangalan niya. Si Santos, ay si Santos, hinirang na, hinirang na. Si Santos, ay si Santos, hinirang na, hinirang na. Kaya nga, happy na siya, happy na siya. Innas balala, oh innas, oh innas. Bala si Basag, oh innas, oh innas. Si Dr. Ramon Santos, pambansang artista. Si Dr. Ramon Santos, hindi na kayo kumakanta. Pambansang artista. Tunay na modernista, modernista. Tunay na, ay tunay. Iskolar, ay iskolar ng kultura, ng kultura. Iskolar, ay iskolar ng kultura, ng kultura. Malapit, ay malapit na birthday niya, na birthday niya. Malapit, ay malapit na birthday. Siya pong tunay, birthday po niya sa February 25. Lahat po tayo ay imbitado. Ang lahat, imbitado, imbitado. Ang lahat ay imbitado, imbitado. Sa kanyang konsierto, konsierto. Sa kanyang konsierto, konsierto. Obra niya, pakinggan nyo, pakinggan nyo. Obra niya, pakinggan nyo. Sasakit, ay sasakit ang tenga nyo. Tenga nyo. Sa pong tunay, February 25, declared po national holiday kasi birthday po ni Dr. Ramon Santos. Nagkakaroon po ng isang concert, baghapon po ang title, Never Before Performed Pieces from 1960s and 1970s. Tampok po ang UP Madrigal Singers, ang Kilyawan Boys Choir, ang Novo Concertante, ilang Mausolowista, ang UP College of Music Centennial Festival Orchestra sa konduktor, sa ilalim po ng baton ni Professor Maestro Toledo. February 25, Abelardo Hall Auditorium. Ang totoo ko pong alay sa kanya ay nandito sa Musika Journal 10. Seryoso po ito. Makakakuha po kayo ng kopya sa UP Press at sa UP Center for Ethnomusical. Innas bala, oh innas, oh innas. Bala si Basen, oh innas, oh innas. Innas bala, oh innas, oh innas. Bala si Basen, oh innas, oh innas. Maraming salamat. Mabuhay kayo, Dr. Ramon Santos. Tunay kayong isang kadangyan.
Mga panauhin, UP Tugma and Dr. De La Peña, maraming salamat po sa inyong musika. Inaanyayahan po namin sina UP Press Director Jose Neil Garcia at Dekana ng CAL, Amihan Bonifacio Ramolete, upang magbigay ng katibayan ng pasasalamat, Pagpupugay DVD at UP Press Kit kay pambansang alagad ng sining Ramon P. Santos. Muli po atin silang palakpakan.
Dahil ginagaya lang naman natin ang daigdig eh. Pagsulat, ginagaya natin. as much as possible, hanggang maaari, ginagaya natin ang daigdig para maging mas malapit sa atin yung daigdig na yon. At para makita natin yung hinahanap natin bagay-bagay.
Upang magtanghal at magbasa ng mga sipi mula sa tula na pinamagatang Chinese Impressions ni Cirilo F. Bautista, pambansang alagad ng sining para sa panitikan, narito ang isang makata, performing artist, alumna ng Thomasian Writers Guild, guro sa University of Santo Tomas, at estudyante ng PhD Creative Writing sa UP Diliman, si Nerissa del Carmen Guevara.
6 of 8 Chinese impressions. That Chinese laundry woman with a crooked nose, I wonder if you knew her, is dead. One night, tired of seeing her dreams washed away by detergent soap and dirty water, she laid her withered head down and was gone. A single bird on the balete tree shook his black hair and laughed at the moon. It is not the Chinese face that is inscrutable. Kilang water is inscrutable. The boats rocking it are inscrutable. It is the mind standing outside like rain that cannot hold the meaning it creates, so that the mind merely gazes at the pool of meanings, 1 foot in the water, yet not of water, unsure in the flowing silence. At Ye Lihu Park, the water is blue as the wind touches it. The mountains watch the gulls combing the air for bones or weeds. 100 people climb up the 100-stepped ledge to view the sea. Young boys hunt for coins under the bridge. I take photographs of my wife on the rocks. But the wind and water always get in the way of my eyes. I sit and think of Lipo instead. Wang Wei, you old bastard, why did you write poems like that? Is there no meaning in the marriage of words? Is it not the fish a symbol? I read your lines and I grow weak. Your aesthetics hit me right in the brain. I, a young poet, thinking I know what I talk about. Let the moon shine. I don't care for light and love, I have wine. Let the fish laugh at my reed and youngsters talk of fight, brandishing swords of weed. I don't care for love or light. Let them burn my verses, though I labored over every line. Let the moon shine on my white beard and bald head. I don't care, I have wine. Let them say, he's out of his mind. If I choose to sit here and watch the fields fall in time, I don't care, I have wine. Let all the lovers trip in their game, and all the warriors boast of shields. I don't care, let the moon shine. I am brother to the fields. The birds sing my rhyme. I am exact in my hut. I am one, I don't pine. I don't care. Let the moon shine. I have wine. Cheers, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Nerissa Del Carmen Guevara. Upang magbigay-pugay kay Cirilo F. Bautista, pambansang alagad ng sining para sa panitikan, narito ang feministang makata, kritiko at Professor Emeritus sa De La Salle University, si Dr. Marjorie Evasco.
Our beloved national artists who are being honored today, colleagues and friends, good evening. First of all, congratulations, Dr. Neil Garcia and the UP Press on your golden anniversary. And thank you for this opportunity to give tribute to poet Cirilo F. Bautista. In an essay called Shaping the Past, delivered at his alma mater, the University of Santo Tomas, national artist for literature Cirilo F. Bautista revealed that it was his father who had given him the words which defined the poet's ground of being and gave him his lifetime errand. I became a writer because I took to heart my father's advice to shape the past. He did not tell me how, but I thought writing was the way to do it. He did not tell me why either, but I felt it was to gain some degree of happiness, some ascendancy over the travails of existence, and a strong desire to make of the past something beyond the past drove me into a fine madness and defined the borders of my artistry. And so every time I am asked why I decided to be a writer, because strangely enough, I did decide to be a writer, I answer, when I first got mad. That moment, of course, was not accompanied by a roar of thunder and blaze of lightning. Like all life-altering decisions, it developed quietly and gradually until many years later, I found that I was irrevocably engaged in the fashioning of prose and poetry. I discovered that writing was the most effective way of configurating the elements of reality into an ever-fresh world, and that literature was the only possible, faithful, and unassailable reconstruction of human values in a gaudy and duplicitous environment. One of the marks of the lyric poems of Bautista is the constitution or the making of the image or eidos of personas in Philippine society and history, like Rizal, Bonifacio, the tear-gassed man, and even the one who says he is being used by big shots for target practice. Bautista reconfigures figures from history by giving them an individual speaking voice. In the poem What Rizal Told Me, Bautista presents to us the personae of Rizal and Cirilo, the poet's double. The discursive situation is a conversation through 13 stanzas of 4 lines each between the man that Filipinos hail as the nation's hero and the poet Cirilo. The voice, as we read from the title, is the voice of Cirilo, retelling the reader what Rizal told him. The retelling, however, is in the dramatic mode, and from the first line to the last, it is Rizal's voice that is represented in the poem. I have learned the subtle virtue of regret, how it can ride a mad horse and not fall off. At times, it is necessary to invent illusions that would change the map of your consciousness, if only to feel you could not have done things any better. A man is bound, shot, and carted off to argue with worms. Is he less valid as an agent of peace? Will you break the bones of his philosophy? The voice is that of a man of intellect, engaging the poet in the rhetoric that burdens an otherwise peaceful man with the irretrievability of the past and places the law between violence and violence, where there are angels and vampires whose diction vexed my blood. Language used by the colonizers turned worship into a terrorizing religion. On the other hand, language used by the revolutionaries turned idealists into beasts, baring their teeth for the kill. In the middle of the poetic discourse, Rizal faces and addresses Cirilo directly, but in a conspiratorial tone, assuming a friendship that has shared many a secret. You know how it was, Cirilo. You saw the hole I was cramped in and despaired enough to write that I failed because I left no proof of bloodstains on broken stones. There it is again, the phrase that is an insistent refrain in the poems of Bautista, and it is always spoken in the tone of anger and continuing confrontation with failure. Here is one of the sharpest examples of what Bautista calls his choice of a reasoned romanticism over unreasoned skepticism. Rizal reasons to Cirilo that even as the failure is irredeemable, the sweating mass, the road menders and gardeners, the glass blowers and plowmen who are ignorant need some solace, some hope. I am the first thing they seek when they bleed. I wipe the sorrow from their brow, my throat sings their children to sleep. They stick my face where fear had been. I shape the lies that enliven their hopes. That is how we rescue each other from the rigors of obedience. An elegiac statement concludes the poem. History is the other side of regret. At this point, the voices of Rizal and Cirilo merge, and the nature of the pain of regret is made intelligible. Behind the mask of the hero, there is only the naked human face of a dead man. Behind the mask of a poet, there is the vulnerable human heart of the poet, singing an elegy to the race. In the light of his poetics, Bautista must believe in the power of poetry and betray the gaudy and duplicitous world that passes itself off as true. In the poem The Intensity of Things, Bautista memorializes one of his earliest teachers, a medicine woman named Anselma Carpio. We hear in the dialogue between a hard realist wisdom and that of the poets reaching out to us in the long and common history of the dying poor in this country. Believe and betray. Is that not the system we support to survive? Chance and the certainty commingling in the acts we put up and regret. Bautista asserts that Anselma was the only sane person in the world of his youth in the slum areas of Balik-Balik, Sampaloc after World War II. It was a world haunted by death and the proximity of bitterness and despair. But like Selma, he never despaired of his situation, but believed that there was a way of squeezing from the world some astonishment by becoming a poet. The betrayed poor can only turn faithless for the treason that is committed against them. But in the same breath, the lyric voice enjoins them to understand the price of choosing to live. But we say to ourselves, we will be strong, life is long, though we quake in the saying of it, in the terrible burden of it. This is the heart of Cirilo F. Bautista's Historia, his lyric sense of history, his intimate knowing of the story of our people. In the poem called The New Philippine National Anthem, the speaker concludes, "But I will always love you, Filipinas, because in the dead of night, when the enemies creep closer to the gate to break the bones of our hate, when pale men with foreign tongues pillage your mountains and meadows for minerals for money, money, money. When we are broke and hungry and cold, you keep us together with the warmth of your voice, whispering such a word as peace, such a word as freedom." We listen to the cadence of this song and heed it as our own anthem too. The dream that we share with the national artist, poet of the first order, who serves to reinstate words to their position in the social imagination. We, his readers, lovers of words, believers in the language of peace and freedom, have the task to engage under the instruction of the poet in respecting and safeguarding the language of our soul. Only then can we stand side by side with Cirilo Bautista, speaking like him without flinching to power, to ensure that the language of our soul is never going to be corrupted by the greedy and the malicious. Poetry like Bautista's shapes us, our first and only frontier of being. Mabuhay ka, Pambansang Makata, at ang iyong mahal na kabiyak, si Ma'am Rose Bautista.
Thank you, Dr. Marjorie Evasco. Inaanyayahan po namin sina UP Press Director Jose Neil C. Garcia at Dekana ng CAL, Amihan Bonifacio Ramolete, upang magbigay ng katibayan ng pasasalamat, Pagpupugay DVD at UP Press Kit kay Pambansang Alagad ng Sining para sa panitikan, Dr. Cirilo F. Bautista.
Upang magbigay ng pasasalamat, narito ang Direktor ng UP Press, Dr. Jose Neil C. Garcia.
The promotion of literacy is a cause in which the entirety of our national educational system is, of necessity, urgently invested. After all, we have only been unevenly and in many places minimally literate for a tumultuous century. It's easy to see how the residual orality that afflicts our personal lives, as well as our social and political systems, is in many ways the uneasy endowment of this cultural condition. It is only with a firmly established textual mentality that many of our enduring problems as a country can begin to be addressed. For their solutions all presuppose in its citizens primarily the ability, actually the habit, to think in categorical rather than provisional terms. If only for this reason, the cultivation of literacy through the sponsorship of the arts may be seen as a uniquely nationalistic undertaking. It builds the Filipino nation as a matter of collective inclination and awareness, as an imaginative and ethical inner structure first and foremost. The University of the Philippines Press certainly plays a crucial role in this immense and unfinished task. In pursuing its mandate to advocate academic freedom, it presents and disseminates local and important forms of knowledge by publishing the very best literary and scholarly books by our country's very best writers and scholars. Because the arts are an exemplary form of heightened consciousness, they may be said to be the condition for and evidence of a mature and transformative literacy of the visual, performative, and literary sorts. Hence, their continued production and distribution through the medium of books can only be in the interest of our country's one and only national university to carry out. We need to realize that the powerful orality that continues to permeate our lives is a cultural mode characterized by a fluid and variable memory. While copious and valuable in its own tactile and immediate ways, the oral mind, with its makeshift and situational predisposition, has prevented us from remembering analytically and tenaciously about things. Sadly, this is precisely the kind of cognitive skill that we need in order to set aright so much of what is wrong about our national reality, blighted as it is by exactly the kinds of clientelist ties premised on personalistic logic that orality propagates and requires. UP must continue to champion profound forms of reading and writing, not only because textual or categorical mentality is something our country vitally needs, but also because it is especially through these mindful acts that an ethical intuition can take root. Literacy suspends us inside the consciousness of others, rendering us responsible for our ways of relating with them, who affirm our sense of self precisely by being irreducible to it, and with whom we must share this imperiled and perilous world. Immersing themselves in the complexities of their formal practices, artists leave behind the safety of the familiar, the known and the same, in order to confront, respect, and relate to strangeness, difference, otherness. It is through the arts and their imaginative flights, their ability to endow us a point of view distinct from our own, to incarnate us, as it were, that we bring our sense of identity, our very self, to a state of beautiful crisis, from which we may emerge not only more aware and appreciative of the existence of others, but also, more importantly, as fundamentally different from or other to ourselves. From this recontextualizing of the self, its decentering and empathy across embodiments and locations, a sense of morality may gradually, hopefully, emerge. The UP Press is half a century old. It is only fitting that it should celebrate and share this milestone with its authors. Early last year, we decided to honor and express our gratitude to the 13 national artists who have entrusted their books to our care. Consummate rememberers and translators between the oral and textual realms. They stand as the vanguards of our people's steadfast march toward the kind of profound and moral literacy underlying the grand and aspirational abstraction that is the nation. And so we are duly reminded, before it can be anything else, the Filipino nation must be a stable allegory, a powerfully enacted story with its set of rituals and cosmologizing symbols that can gather together the embodied and parlous differences of our country into the archipelagic unity that lies at the heart of our imagined community. Of course, it is our artists who bridge the chasm between our present and our past in order to provide us the brightest rituals, symbols, images, sounds, and narratives that collectively inspire and perform into being our national culture. In the words of Frantz Fanon, and let me quote, "A national culture is the whole body of efforts made by a people in the sphere of thought to describe, justify, and praise the action through which that people has created itself and keeps itself in existence." Unquote. On behalf of the University of the Philippines, I would like to thank all our national artist authors for entrusting to us, UP's official publishing house, their wondrous and irreplaceable books, the children of their best selves, bestowals of their giving consciousness. As carefully shaped vessels of enduring memory, books are nothing if not invitations to the ethical life, gestures towards principled sociality, manifestos against the shame and impunity of forgetting. Our country, as bodied forth by its one and only national university, shall forever be grateful to all of you. I would also like to thank our partner institutions for this tribute program, namely the College of Arts and Letters, headed by Dean Amihan Bonifacio Ramolete, and the UP Open University, headed by Chancellor Grace Alfonso. Our heartfelt thanks also goes to the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, the Cultural Center of the Philippines, and the Likaan UP Institute of Creative Writing, as well as all the speakers, resource persons, performers, MCs, visual and musical artists, and members of the production staff, who all work tirelessly in the making of our tribute videos and installations, as well as our activity here today. I would like in particular to thank Ms. Olive Nieto, Special Project Coordinator of the UP Press. She and her team, that includes Alden Acosta, Angela Simbahon, and Opaline Santos, Team Marketing and Editorial and Admin of the UP Press, all of them, have been unstinting and entirely committed to all our golden anniversary activities, especially today's. Finally, I wish to thank the administration of President Alfredo E. Pascual, especially my lovely and indefatigable boss, Vice President for Academic Affairs, Giselle Padilla Concepcion, for their unwavering support of all the projects and initiatives of the UP Press. Thank you for coming. A pleasant evening to one and all.
Thank you, UP Press Director, Sir Jose Neil C. Garcia. Inaanyayahan po namin ang lahat na magsitayo para sa UP naming mahal.